What's going on, y'all? Story time. So it is September of 2024, all right? And Joe Biden is about 32 points behind his opponent. And he's freaking out. He calls everybody into the Oval Office. And he says, we got to figure out what's going on. And you got until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to let me know how we're going to get back in this race. So 8 o'clock comes tomorrow morning. And everybody walks in. His poll folks, his handlers, everybody. Vice President says, what do we got to do? They said, well, sir, we figured out the problem. It's just because no blue-collar folks are going to vote for you, okay? The blue-collar folks don't like you. The country boys really don't like you. And the rednecks just flat out hate you. But we figured out what we can do. Joe, we are going to send you on a duck hunt down in Mississippi. We're going to have it on Fox News, and we're going to have it live. Everybody's going to see you, and they're going to say, he's a good old boy just like us. Joe said, this might be brilliant, y'all. So he gets on a plane. He gets on Air Force One from D.C. and he goes and lands in Vicksburg, Mississippi. They got a pair of duck waiters waiting for him when he gets there to the airport, and they head off to the most beautiful honey hole you ever saw in your entire life. He's got a Secret Service behind the duck blind and duck waiters. He's got 4 rednecks on the right side of him, and Joe's got 4 rednecks on the left side of him. He's holding a shotgun and a big old wad of red man chewing tobacco in his left cheek. He has never felt like this much of a man in his entire life. All of a sudden, some ducks start circling, and they're coming in. They said, get ready, Mr. President. They're getting closer, they're coming back in. All of a sudden, they said, cut him, Mr. President. He goes, boom! And all of a sudden, he thinks he's got one, but the duck is just clipped. And it gets lower and lower and lower, and then, oh hell, falls on the neighbor's barn next door. So the cameras are still rolling live, and Joe's got to walk over there and retrieve his duck. His entire presidency is riding on finding this duck and looking like a good old boy so he can get them 32 points back. Goes up to the farmer's gate, and this farmer is waiting for him, and he looks like he's got a pretty good grouch on. He says, excuse me, Mr. Farmer, I shot a duck and he landed on top of your barn. Farmer said, what's that got to do with me? He said, well, I got to get that duck back. He said, no, you know what, Joe? Once that duck landed on top of my barn and crossed my property line, that became my duck. Well, Joe is seeing this going south real fast. He kind of looks around. He's real nervous. The cameras are still rolling. He said, look, is there any kind of agreement that we can reach here so that I can get my duck back? The farmer thinks about it for a minute and he goes, yeah, I believe there is. I'm going to kick you in the nuts as hard as I possibly can. Then you can kick me in the nuts. And we'll just trade places, going back and forth, kicking each other in the nuts until the last one is standing. And whoever is standing at the very end gets to have the duck. Well, this is a moment of truth, y'all. I mean, Joe is sitting here thinking, if I'm a man, and if the cameras are rolling, if I'm the leader of the free world, I can take a hit, right? So he says, Secret Service, stand down. I'm agreeing to your proposal, Mr. Farmer. Mr. Farmer says, okay, good. I go first. Bam! He just whacks him as hard as he possibly can. Joe hits the ground. He's screaming every obscenity in the book. He is hollering. He's crying. He's grabbing his nuts. He ain't never felt so much pain in his entire life. 5 minutes goes by. 10, 15, 20, about a half hour. Joe's Secret Service finally picks him up by the bottom of the armpits and lifts him to his feet. He's out of breath. He can barely speak. He can barely talk. He got nothing in him. He said, well, Mr. Farmer, I suppose it's my turn now to kick you in the nuts. And the farmer says, no, that's all right, Joe. You can have the duck.